A week ago, in the episode called Setting the Stage, we saw how Jesus used a natural amphitheater on the Sea of Galilee to address a very large crowd as he was about to tell the parable of the sower. And today we're going to take a look at that parable, which is a foundational parable. It's one of the few parables that gets thoroughly explained afterward. Jesus goes through and breaks down the parts because his disciples come and ask him what it was all about. So today we're going to look at Mark's version. It's in Mark chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. We're only going to hit a few phrases, but they're sort of critically important for unpacking and understanding and seeing some of the magnificence of the language. So starting out, Mark chapter 4, verses 2 and 3. And he was teaching them many things in parables. And in his teaching, he said to them, "Listen, behold, a sower went out to sow." So I want to look at two different things here. The first up is listen, behold, akuete idu. If you go way back into the catalog of Koine Corner, there's an entire episode about this dynamic of listen, look, or listen, behold. But here we have akuete idu. Akuete gives us our English word acoustics. Hear, listen, it's an imperative. And idu is another imperative, look, behold, or consider. Why both listen and look? Well, he's telling a parable. There's nothing to look at visually, but in their listening, they're being told to carefully consider or examine the content of what he's saying. So pay attention to what I say and take a close look at the meaning of what I'm talking about. Picture this and examine it. Then we get exelthen ho speron sperai. So the first word is our verb, exelthen. He went out. He, she, or it went out. Well, who is this he? Ho speron. This is a present participle with an article. The one who sows, the sower, a person who is being identified by what they do. The sower, the one who sows, sperai. This is an infinitive, and it's almost a pure use of the infinitive. The sower to sow. The sower went out to sow. So the infinitive tells us the purpose of the going out. This person who's identified by what he does, the sower, went out for what purpose? To do the thing that he does, to sow. So it's important for us to remember that the sowing of the day was primarily broadcast sowing. A sweeping move with the arm that casts an arc of seed to fall upon the prepared field. So with that in mind, let's carry on and go to verse 4. And as he sowed, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured it. So fell along the path is apesen paratein hodon. So we know that this is broadcast sowing, that he's not making a hole in the ground with his finger or a dibble and planting a single seed and covering it with dirt, because we're told that the seed, apesen, fell. So before it can fall, it has to be airborne, right? So he's broadcasting seed. And where did it fall? Paratein hodon, along or alongside the way, the road, or the path. So this is not the prepared ground. This is opened, exposed ground. And the result is the birds can sweep in and eat it up, because they're not going to come while you're still there working necessarily. But because it's not on prepared ground, it's alongside the path, it is available for the opportunistic birds as they feed. It doesn't get a chance to grow. Let's go on and look at 5 and 6. Other seed fell on rocky ground where it did not have much soil, and immediately it sprang up, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. So I want to look at where it fell here for this verse. Epito petrodes, hopu uk eken gain polane. So epito petrodes, epi upon, to petrodes, the rocky area, the rocky place, the rocky ground. Hopu, where, uk eken, it has not gain polane, much soil. So what's the problem with the rocky ground? There's too much rock and not enough soil. So when the seed starts to grow, the roots can't penetrate and all the growth is upward. When the challenge comes, when the sun hits it, it can't get enough moisture. This out of balance growth, this upward but not downward growth, gets scorched and withers away and dies. So it can't stand up to a challenge because we're told that it lacks bathos gaze. Bathos, like the bathysphere, depth, gaze from gain, soil. It lacks depth of soil and it can't withstand a challenge. Let's go on to verse 7. Other seed fell among thorns, as tas acanthus, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and I love this verb, sunepnixon, and it yielded no grain. So we started out, the first problematic seed fell paratain hodon, along or alongside the road or the path. The next one fell epitopetrodes, upon the rocky area. So we had along, then upon. Then we had astas acanthus, into the midst of the thorns. So it was mixed in with something else. That's what we have here. It's mixed in with another thing, and the effect of that is that it winds up choking it, suffocating it, depriving it of resources. So one gets eaten up by birds, doesn't get a chance to grow. The other one gets an unbalanced growth, upwards but not rooted because there's not enough soil. Then this one has to compete for resources. There are challenges to it from the things that are surrounding it. Pernicious weeds competing for resources result in it being choked out, suffocated, deprived of what it needs, and therefore it can't gain anything. Now we get to verse 7. And other seeds fell into good soil and produced grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30-fold and 60-fold and 100-fold. And our soil here is described as ace-tain, gain-tain, kalain. So we have a second ace, but this ace is a little different. The last ace was into the middle or midst, in among thorn bushes. But here it's directly into tain, gain, tain, kalain, the soil, the good, into good soil. So it's we had alongside, upon, into the midst, and then just into. And the difference here is the result is it gets to take good root, it gets to put down roots, it doesn't get snatched up by birds, it's not fighting with competing resources, and as a result, it has production, big production, 30 times, 60 times, even 100 times. No farmer plants for replacement. Okay? I want you to think about this. If you had to plant a whole potato in order to grow one potato, no one would ever plant a potato. In fact, potatoes would soon go extinct. Right? That's not how it works. If you plant something, if you take the time and effort to plant something, it's with the intention, hope, and promise of it producing more than what you put into the ground. Otherwise, it would be a futile effort. So let me end by sowing a little seed here. No living species that fails to achieve replacement rate can survive. Any species that doesn't exceed replacement rate is ultimately doomed. You can dip below replacement rate for short periods of time, but certainly that's not sustainable. And as Jesus said at the end of the parable, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Right? One last thing I want to say about this. This parable is not confusing in any regard, is it? But yet at the end of it, the disciples come, after the crowd is gone, the disciples come and ask Jesus to explain it to them. And I would posit a theory to you that, and I'm not saying that it didn't happen, so don't get up in arms with me, but my theory here is that this is a fantastic literary device to further establish this parable as kind of a foundational, structural model for the written gospel. By reiterating and explaining the parable, it cements its place in the written document as a foundational and structural piece, so that everyone can understand that. So I would encourage you to go and read verses 10 through 20 and look at how Jesus breaks it down for the disciples who come and ask for the explanation, and then consider it as framework for everybody that Jesus encounters, particularly in Mark's gospel, but ultimately in all of the synoptics. Thanks for watching. I hope that was interesting for you, and please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, leave me some feedback in the comments, and until next time, Charis Kai Irene Humine, grace and peace to you.